everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at the Civil War expansion for Marvel United. Not only is Civil War the best comic series in the Marvel comic line, period, maybe Age of Apocalypse, but it's close. I love the Civil War. Iron Man versus Captain America. Not as good in the movies, but still pretty good in that scenario. But this is an expansion that adds a whole bunch of new characters. I think there's 8 new characters. Some of them involved in the Civil War, some not. But anyway, we won't get caught up in that. But it now allows you to just play against someone else, just like brawl. And then a kind of a spin on that brawl. So you can play, if you don't know anything about Civil War, in it, heroes were required to register with the government. Some heroes said, we don't want to do that. It's too dangerous, led by Captain America. Iron Man and his jerky friends said, we're going to force you and we're going to throw you in prison if you don't. And that's kind of the story. But it gives you an excuse just to have a team line up against another team. Let me show you. Let's talk about, before we talk about the characters, let's talk about how the Civil War works. And there's 2 different ways to play. One way is basically, well, basic. You give red bases to one team, you give blue bases to the other team. You each of the areas, instead of having the threat token there, it's going to be red or blue. And then you're just going to go back and forth playing cards between your characters. So you play a card, then the other team plays a card, then you play a card. Someone else on your team will play a card after, following the rules basically of the base game, except there's no villain. Instead, you're going to go around and you're going to rescue civilians and fight thugs. And every time you do that, you get a point. If you're at a location of the other team, you can spend 2 heroic actions to get your public endorsements to flip the team. That gives you a point. And you can knock out your opponent, which will give you 5 points. Now, each player starts with a shield. So this will take the first hit when someone hits you. But after that, you start taking wounds like normal. Once you're KO'd, you'll get back up. But you will, the other team gets 5 points. Now, as you're scoring points, whenever you hit a green line, you'll draw a population card, which is going to help repopulate the area out here. And after each team has had a go, you'll draw an event card. And the team that controls most locations will give a token from the pool to their heroes until the next event. Takes 2 to take out thugs, etc. And you're going to have 5 of these events. And when you go through all 5 events, whoever has most points wins. You can also win by just getting 40 points straight. The other side of the board here plays a little bit differently. The blue team is going to be trying to accomplish a certain number of missions. And at the beginning of the game, you're basically bidding to see who's going to be the blue team and how many turns it will take you to complete these missions. You do that, you win. The red team is going to be capturing people and throwing them into cells, and each cell will have various things. This is a psionic trap, an EMP trap, a truth serum trap, etc. And so they'll be playing these cells out here on the board and throwing people in them. So on your turn, you can free themselves to get out. You can spend 2 to get out of a cell. And basically, the red team throwing people into cells, you're just trying to stop the blue team from completing their missions on time. There's some other rule changes, but that's the general gist. All right, let's take a look at some of the characters here. First, we have Tigra here. She can ignore some damage. She has some unpreventable double damage. Move to a henchman, then attack there. And next turn, ignore any effect that would cause you to play your stuff face down. And she has kind of an even spread. She's a fairly, capable hero, I suppose. I find her a bit boring. You know who's not boring, though? Wonder Man. Well, he is in the comics, but he has near immortality, which has a wild at the bottom and lets him draw a card if he is on down to 1. He has 2 of these flake cards, which are a move and a wild plus a move at the bottom, and then a couple invulnerability cards. Can't take any damage to his next turn, and they're a wild at the bottom. That mixed with a lot of attack, this guy is a powerhouse. Iron Spider comes with a couple pieces of equipment where you can move or, web someone in. What the web shooters, this is a lot of characters have this. And hey, you get Waldo's, basically get 1 heroic action or 1 fighting action and turn it face down. He has some interesting cards. This Spider Sense, basically, where if a villain has his turn, you can move to an adjacent one with no tokens, no symbols at the bottom, is pretty worthless in Civil War. It's okay outside it. But I do like his great responsibility and great power cards, which give you double heroic, double fight. And you get some tokens if you use them properly. And then my name is Peter Parker, which is one of the best cards in the game because it gives you a wild token and gets rid of crisis and exposed tokens. That's pretty good. The rest of his stuff is pretty normal, but with all that, makes him powerful. So Iron Man here, is basically made for this set. This one here, if you don't do any damage in your turn, do a triple damage, but it knocks you out, but not being able to take damage. But he also can draw back up to 3, do a heroic, and give 2 tokens to the heroes. Let 2 of the other heroes move, attack in both adjacent locations, and then a bunch of attack and move style cards. So I don't know how often I would use this Iron Man over maybe Hulkbuster Iron Man, but in Civil War he works pretty well. Hulkling is one of my favorite things in this game, or any type of game. Basically, you can pick at the end of your turn. So set up, you put this card in front of you. At the end of your turn, if there's no hero card, you can choose a starting hand card of any hero not in play and put it next to his card. And then he can use that card as if it had been played by him in the storyline, the special effects. That's just fun, and it gives you so many options. And then, of course, he has Healing Factor, Metamorphic Adoption, where you can perform actions matching the symbols at the bottom of the hero card next to your impersonating card. Here, it's kind of the same thing. These are really neat doing all that. His other cards are kind of a nice mix of all the different symbols, but this fact that he can pick another character and copy them is just a lot of fun. Spectrum is kind of just a very basic character. You know, once in turn, when someone else does damage to an enemy, they get a free attack. That's not bad. And she has 2 energy blasts for adjacent locations. But that is... Oh, no, I'm sorry. She also has an intangibility where she can't take any damage to the end of your next turn. And she has some pretty decent cards, but she does feel vanilla, I think would be the right word. Kate Bishop is worth it just because of all her cards here. The different trick arrows, explosive, and wire, and the Pym particles. You can stun somebody. I mean, those would be good enough you want, just by themselves. Here she has the splits marksman. Here, can I have your stuff when you're dead? A heroic action, or discard an action token to recharge one of your trick arrow equipment cards. So it's almost telling you to use those. You can rescue them to get a token, and you can bring someone else with you, and then attack in each location you entered, accompanied by a hero. Now, the only negative thing about her is her symbols on her cards are pretty weak compared to most of the other heroes. Don't care. She has all those trick arrows, so it does not matter. Then we got Captain America here with the flag. Yeah, cool Captain America. And the shield, which is great because you can hit someone in an adjacent spot. But he also has this fun card called Master Shield, where you hit somebody, then if you take out a thug, you hit another thug, and if you take out them, you hit another thug. Just fun to use. I can do this all day, where you can try not to get KO'd. Hero of the People, a great card for heroic actions, only used to rescue people, but why not? And then an amazing card. It's wild, and it gives everyone else a wild action right now and right then. That combined with some really good cards make Captain America pretty rockin'. Now, before I get into Yellow Jacket, who's pretty boring, I just want to mention there's also a couple pieces here for Hulkling. He wasn't cool enough. One is he can work with Wiccan, which is okay. I'm not a big fan of team-up cards. The other is Excelsior, where you can treat heroic as attacks. That's pretty fun. Anyway, let's get to this boring guy, Yellow Jacket. He's okay. He has this nice disruptor strength, and he comes with a Shrink and a Grow card. So these cards, you can put tokens on them, and there's 3 cards that let you put tokens on them, the Pym particle cards. And you can remove these tokens to do attack or avoid damage. But honestly, that combined with a fairly lackluster amount of icons, he's one of my least favorite characters. And then finally, there's Goliath. Look how big this guy is. He's pretty awesome. You're going to play this card. You don't have to play this card, but it starts in your hand, and so you have 4 cards to start your hand, which is great. And it has a wild at the bottom of it. And then here, he can stun people, and he has 2 of these big fist cards where you just hit someone for 3. In Civil War, this guy is a monster. Because of these cards, he can almost KO someone in one shot, and then has a bunch of other good cards. It's also fun just to have someone this big, although they didn't make a ring for him, so you put it around his arm or Give him a hat, I suppose. Okay, so there we have all the Civil War itself and the characters. Imagine the characters. Characters were all fine and great. I don't know that we needed another Iron Man, another Captain America, but they needed to put them in the set, I guess, to sell it. Speaking of that, to sell this set, it is a little weird. It needs a few tokens, and you need some thugs and some civilians. But this probably should have been just sold as a standalone thing, I think. You need a few tokens from the base game, but not much. And I don't know. I feel like that's a bit of a missed opportunity. And, you know, it says on the back that you need a Marvel United core box is needed to enjoy this expansion, but barely. Now, that being said, and at the beginning of this, I said there's 10 heroes in the box, which is a lot of heroes. A lot of fun people to mess around with. And some of them I said were okay or I didn't love them, but some of them are just amazing. But let's talk about the Civil War way of playing. It's pretty fun. It's a little mindless. The basic one does beating on each other, and some heroes are going to do better in that regard than others. By the way, there's a lot of rules on what can and can't be used. Like if you're using stuff in this box, you're fine. But if you add in other heroes, there's a few things that are going to be wonky, and there's a few locations that are banned. But for the most part, it's going to translate pretty well. You're not a hero. You're a villain. I'm going to hit you. But I like this style pretty nice. It's just a nice kind of easy way to just lay back and just beat on each other for a while. And it doesn't take that long. The side with the Civil War is a little bit more nuanced. I'm not a huge fan of the bidding aspect at the beginning of the rulebook's like, hey, bid between 12 and 15. Because that's about, you'll need so many turns to do things. And that's kind of true, but it's trickier. It does offer more thought. There's more stuff going on. And I like it fine. I just think I'd rather play the basic way because with all the stuff going on, it almost adds a little bit too more finicky rules. But I know some people are going to really enjoy that. I just want to just sit around and punch each other. And they have the Goliath in here, which is fun, that big giant model. But all the models are fun. And then bringing them all in and be like, I'm going to play Captain America and Sam Falcon against 3 Iron Men. And this works really well also as team versus team. 2 against 2, you each control 1 character. It's a fast, furious little game, and you can play back and forth. So I really like this aspect to Marvel United, and also, like I said, 10 more characters doesn't hurt. So an 8.5 out of 10 for me. Marvel United Civil War. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.